Chaos creates opportunity, and there's one specific way to generate listings right now that is the best I know of. I've got David Childers, president of Keeping Current Matters, with me today. This is one you're not going to want to miss. All right, David, this is another opportunity that I really am excited about spending some time with you here. Here we are, first of the year. We have seen, obviously, the market has changed. And let me just make sure I introduce you to everybody as well. David Childers, president of Keeping Current Matters. In my opinion, the most valuable amount of content that's put out for agents, that it gives them the ability to be that relevant agent that understands what's going on and have that opinion of exactly that professional opinion of exactly what's going on. David, I just can't thank you enough for all that you guys do for the market as a whole. But here we are. Let's talk about this. We're at the first of the year. The market has absolutely changed. And now we're heading into a time where this chaos, as Gino Bafari says, the chaos creates opportunity. Where were you guys seeing some of those opportunities, or what are you seeing right now really that shapes that opinion?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And Jimmy, I enjoy doing these with you, and thank you for inviting me on. I would say this is the professionals market. We were talking about that earlier, and the change in supply and demand, which is the shift in the market, I believe works in favor of the educated agent. And there are agents today that maybe understand that better than others. I think there is certainly a gap forming in agents that, on one hand, an agent says, I'm not sure what's happening, and I'm scared about this market. And the confident agent says, I understand what's going on, and I understand how to guide my clients effectively going forward. But no doubt we're in a market that has shifted. We're here in January, and new year, new opportunities. And I do believe there are opportunities in the market. And sometimes, I think our job is to really look and understand what is happening, so that we not only can give the best advice, but we understand, okay, where is the opportunity maybe for listings in this market? And I want to take just a minute and talk about that, because anytime you start to see some of the shifts that we're seeing, there is always going to be opportunity. And the one that I would talk about today is looking at expired listings, but looking at the data relative to what's happening to kind of show that. And let me hop in here and share my screen, and I'll give you what I'm talking about here. So if we take a look at active listings last year versus how we ended this past year. So 2021, where did we end? 2022. So roughly 2021, about 450,000 active listings in this country. We jump back to what we just finished up, 2022, about 750,000 active listings. So we've jumped up from 450,000 to 750,000 active listings. And what do we know about that? Those are largely from inventory sitting on the market than new inventory coming to the market. And so no doubt it's growing. No doubt we need more inventory as well in this country. But if we look at that by state, you can see what that looks like over the last couple of years. We've been in this situation with depleting inventory across the country as interest rates fell and COVID and the meaning of home changed for everybody. And now we're seeing that shift where you're at in Florida, Jimmy, almost 100% shift in inventory year over year. Some states not as much, but where I'm at, almost 25% up in Virginia. But you can see all over the country, no matter where you're listening to in this, the shift in inventory that's happened. So that's one thing we can point to and say, okay, inventory is growing. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If we look at this data point real quick, it shows us a shift in demand, I would argue. And this is the pending listing count. So you go back to January of last year, just about every month through December, we've seen pending listings fall. Okay, so what do we know? Everybody, I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know right now. Inventory's grown and demand is decreasing. Now, anytime you see that form in the market, it points to one thing. It points to expired listings. And an expired listing, I believe, is probably one of the number one ways to generate a listing or engage someone on a conversation right now that has been through the last 6 months, 8 months, whatever it's been. They didn't sell their home. Likely, let's be honest, it was overpriced as the market has shifted. And there's a conversation to be had. Jimmy, you brought up a good point. We were talking earlier. It's not just the listings that are expiring right now. It's a listing that maybe expired a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months ago. There was that Redfin article just, probably 45, 60 days ago where more listings were taking off the market than any other time before. And I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity right now in expireds, and it's something that we haven't even talked about. 2 years ago, there wasn't a listing in this country that expired. It felt like, they were bought before it even went live. It was, oftentimes the case. So I think there's tremendous opportunity right now with pendings, and I'll go through that. But I wanted to pause for a second. I think that's really where the opportunity is, Jimmy.
Yeah, and listen, David, I would say this. Going back, we've got so many agents that have done extremely well over the last few years that we're not even in the business when we were in a typical market environment where expired listings were a big part of building your listing inventory as an individual agent. This is one of those where if you're at a place where you're wondering, where am I going to get listings? An expired listing is basically someone that raised their hand and said they wanted to sell, and they either did not get the professional advice they needed, or they were not ready to hear it. We used to say, what's the best listing position to be in? Second agent, because the market, quote unquote, has tenderized them in a lot of cases to a place where they're ready to hear from that professional agent instead of dictating the conversation. One of the things that we see when we had the market environment we did, everybody was smart. Everybody was smart in this. Everybody looked brilliant. You couldn't hardly overprice anything. Now, coming in with that understanding of exactly where we are, giving the facts on where the market is, just like what we looked at, it becomes very clear who it is that is ready and wanting and willing and able to sell, and they're ready for that professional advice. They just need to be have an understanding of what's really going on. So this is huge from that standpoint. So let's talk about that, David. What does that look like to you? Where are some of the other areas that people can focus right now on, specifically on this expired listing, and some of the content that maybe you guys are sharing that can help with that?
Yeah, if you go to Keeping Current Matters, we do have an expired listing e-guide that walks you through the entire process. Highly encourage anybody listening to go grab that. And I think you're right, Jimmy. I think there are folks that have been out in the market, have had their home on the market, maybe taken their home off the market, and now is a good time to list a home. What do we know that is true across the country is we need more inventory. That's the one thing that's kept prices from falling, is there just isn't inventory. So if I were sitting with someone in a listing appointment, or somebody that's with an expired right now, I would go through what I just went through and bring the information to this person to help them make a great decision and say, hey, here's what's happened. More inventories come to market. Okay. Most times in most markets, new inventory has fallen. So this is inventory that's been on the market. And oh, by the way, what's happening with demand? Demand has fallen. But if something is priced right in this market, it sells. I'll tell you a story. I oftentimes, during the week, I'll find an open house and I'll try to make it out to it to just get a chance to talk with an agent, because I'm not in the business every day like you, Jimmy. And I, a couple of weeks ago on a Sunday, I found a home. I was like, that felt like it was priced right. And I was like, I'm going to swing by there and just go check it out. I pulled up and there were 10 cars in the driveway. There were folks circling the house, and I just was like, man, I'm not going to go get involved in that. And it went on the market. Went off the market the next day. And so what does that tell us? And I'm not saying that we're going to enter into a market that was like 2021 or 2022 or anything like that in the frenzy of the market. But what I'm saying is, if something is priced right today, it's selling. Yeah, so exactly right. We know we've got to help people make some price adjustments where needed, because let me kind of break this down real quick. Somebody that has not sold their house has 4 options. They can relist with their current agent, and you kind of, what would you say the best position to be is? The second position, right? You can come in and have that conversation. If you've got a listing getting ready to expire, it's time for a hard conversation with that seller. That's the hardest part, Jimmy. Is having that hard conversation. Like, well, I don't want to offend them. I don't want to say something that's going to make them mad. But that's what we have to do.
That's right.
Yes.
The second thing is, that's the other thing, David, before you even go to that, you can be that second agent yourself. If you have not, now is the time to have those hard conversations, because you really have not a lot to lose being honest and being that professional, giving that advice. And so absolutely, relist with that current agent is something that a lot of times we overlook as professional agents. It's a lot easier to keep a listing than it is to go get a new one if you do it correctly. So that's great.
Right. So you can relist. They can take their home off the market, right? They can say, you know what? And we've seen people do that and say, you know what? I'm not going to fool with it. Here's something that people did as well, Jimmy. I'm convinced this happened. We saw it in the data back in early December. People felt the market slowing down. Their home wasn't selling. And they're like, you know what? We're about to go through Thanksgiving. We're going to go through Christmas, and we're just going to take the house off the market. Now that we've been through the new year, I think a lot of people are like, should we do that again? Right? What was the reason that we decided to put our home on the market originally? We got to get people back to that. The third option is they can put it on, for sale by owner. They can FSBO it. I would not say this is the market to be FSBOing in any market. And the fourth option, obviously, is you can get them to list with you. And I think the fourth option in getting them to list with you is what we started off this call talking about. The confident agent in this market that has a plan, that's able to show the seller, this is the reality of what's happening, set the proper expectations, they can then deliver on those expectations. But if they've got expectations from back in June or, back in the spring when their neighbor sold the house, then gosh, that's going to be a tough road. But if we can help them and we can get them the information that helps them be the educated seller, gosh, that's a great opportunity. I'll end with one quote that I have here. I think it sums this market up, Jimmy. And I got to tell you, I don't see this being talked about a lot. And it comes from Dave Stevens. He's a former assistant secretary of housing, smart guy in our business. He said, be advised, this may be the one and only window for the next few years to get into a buyer's market. And remember, as the Federal Reserve data shows, home prices only go up and always recover from recessions, no matter how mild or severe. Long-term homeowners should view this market right now as a unique buying opportunity. So talked a lot about expires, but I think there is opportunity in this market for folks that are looking that maybe a couple of years ago found it impossible to buy a home.
Really good stuff, David. As always, listen, always bringing the value. If folks are curious about KCM, how would they, what's the best way? Just go check out the website, or what would you suggest?
Yeah, you can go to keepingcurrentmatters.com, go check things out. You can start a free 14-day trial. Here at the beginning of the year, grab some of this information, see if it's right for you. But I'll tell you, between here and the spring market, I think being able to educate buyers and sellers is going to be key. It's going to sort of separate you from the average agent to the professional agent. I think this market is doing it right now.
Yeah, best in the business, David. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you.
Listen, if you got something out of this, make sure you go check out Keeping Current Matters. Let David know how much you appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.